a way to respect me, to be, I know I'm struggling, but give me 5 minutes. If in 5 minutes I don't get it, I'll give the instrument back. So that for me, it's sort of my way to show them I still respect your inputs, but yet I'm not obedient. I'm not just like handing yourself the instrument without asking.
Yeah. And it's also such a vulnerable thing to say, to let other people know that you see what they see, that you may be struggling.
Exactly.
And as soon as we say that, often the people who might be looking at you in a judgmental way or thinking, oh, how come he's not done with the instrument yet? As soon as you say it, it diffuses the situation. It makes you so much more human in that moment. To just be like, look, we all know that it's not finished yet, but I want to finish it. It's not that I don't know what I'm doing. It's just that I need a little bit more time. And I find that this phrase that you just said, I know I'm struggling, but please give me 5 more minutes, can be adapted to so many different situations, even outside of the OR.
Absolutely.
In situations of everyday life. You know? I think that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
So we're talking a lot about specifics in your life as an orthopedic surgeon. What do you do when you're not in the OR and not in the hospital?
I try to travel. I think traveling is definitely one of my passions. Definitely want to experience the world in a different way, and I remind myself that, whatever that I'm living through, it's only a glimpse of what this world really is. And then there's so much out there, different culture, different people, different, world. And I love that. And then I do like experiencing other cultures in the sense that, I love languages. I love learning a new language. I personally speak, 3, and then I would love to pick up my Spanish. So I think outside of medicine, I will theoretically, I guess it's still always a constant struggle, but to travel more, to exercise more, to read more, I think those are sort of the 3 goals I set for myself.
And of course, when we say, what are you doing outside of being an orthopedic surgeon, you probably don't have that much free time.
Yeah, exactly.
How many hours a week do you work?
Before, it used to be quite a lot. It used to be almost 70 to 80 hours a week as a resident. But now that I'm a fellow, I think the clinical duties became a little bit less, but it still has its busy moments. So when it gets busy, for sure, it's around the 60 or 70 hour. Just because when you're on call, especially when you're on call once during the weekend, you do 24 hours. So those days are very hard, just because you're so sleep deprived that it does, it almost makes the whole week worthless, just because you're always tired. You almost have to catch up on your sleep, and then you can only catch up about 1 hour per night, right? So if you didn't get to sleep on a 24-hour shift, then you almost have to take 5 or even 6 days to recuperate from that sleep-deprived state. I think before I used to, get back on the wagon quite quickly, but I think throughout the years, with age, obviously, I think that ability to sort of bounce back from a sleepless night, it's harder and harder. Yeah.
Talking a lot about the very demanding nature of the work, what do you find is rewarding in the profession that you've chosen?
I think the human interactions, it's the most rewarding things at the end. I think initially I chose orthopedic surgery because of its gratifying sort of experience, especially in the clinic, because a lot of our clients are what we see and what we treat. A lot of times they are reversible conditions, What I mean by that, it's usually orthopedic injuries tend to be a fracture or some sort of musculoskeletal illness that is reversible. So we can actually make the patients feel better or achieve, some sort of return to functions. And then that's a very gratifying experience, because it's not like we're saving their life, but we are giving them the quality of life back. It is a very gratifying experience. And then I do like the nature of my job, which means, it's a very concrete experience in the sense that, the bones are broken. You just have to put the bone back with the screws and plate. So I think that part of my job, being very manual, being very sort of rely on your anatomic knowledge, I think that's my forte. And then I like to do things with my hand. So I think those two things are what makes the work ultimately at the end all the worthwhile. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you can see directly the impact of what you do with your hands on the
Absolutely.
effect on the patient. Yeah. In some other medical professions, it's not so immediately palpable.
Yeah,
Because we're
absolutely.
working through different channels, and for you, it's really like I'm in this person's body, and through what I do with them, I can resolve problems and help them feel better.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about your professional life as an orthopedic surgeon, and I wanted to ask you a bit if you would talk about your journey in discovering the fullness of who you are as an individual.
So I am gay in my personal life. I do consider this to be a very important facet of who I am, but it's not the only trait, who I decide to sleep with. So I did my coming out in between second year of medicine to the third year of medicine. I do think that it was particular difficult decisions. I think at the time, the cultural sort of pressure to basically have a son, to have some sort of a lineage, it was very important to my family. And then also, the societal sort of pressure made things really hard back then. And then, but I did make my coming out to my friends and then to my mom. My dad is still in denial, in the sense that he kind of refused to sort of talk about it or even sort of ask, are you seeing anyone? So he's pretty much just avoids that topic in general, which is something that that's very, I guess it's that kind of an Asian way of doing things, is to just not talk about it. And then if we don't talk about it, then it doesn't exist. So anyway, so I did my coming out really long time ago, but everything was a very gradual process. I kind of expected in my head to be, I'm out and now I get to live this like a very fabulous life. And then all of a sudden I achieved this ultimate understanding of myself, and my life was going to be so much different. But it turns out that everything was kind of the same. Literally, nothing really changed. I still, I still remain friends with the people who used to be my friends, and then nothing has really changed. And then I think I actually felt that it was a very isolating experience because of the sheer nature of what I do professionally. I guess that just took on such a major role in my life that I didn't really get the chance to be out there and then be involved in the community and then be available, I guess, to all the, because what happens when you came out, I think part of the experience is to get to know people sort of the same identity or sort of the same community. And then I felt for once that I almost neglected that myself. Either it's because I was fearful, or I was once again, maybe I was subconsciously avoiding to interact with people of the same sort of sexual identity. That's left to be discussed. But for me, I think right away when I sort of came out, automatically I was like, I want to do ortho. As to why, yes, I think there are the professional sort of attractions. But also I think another aspect of that sort of residency was that, oh, you know what? I work about 80 hours a day, so I get to forget about my sexual preference. I get to forget about that sort of painful part of being gay and then what that is. So I think residency was almost a gateway for me to escape.
Yeah, as if, by filling up your time with something that was very demanding, you needed to dedicate a lot of yourself to it. There wasn't that much energy left to explore this other question.
Yes.
Because maybe there weren't so many avenues that you connected to.
Yes. And then I think that ultimately brought me to my burnout, just because I remember distinctly when I had my burnout, it wasn't just about things not going well in the professional life. I think one of the huge stressor at the time was that I almost felt very alone. I felt that I had nobody in my life, that my sexual identity was not being lived to the fullest. I had a couple of sexual encounter, but I wasn't living my life how I saw I would. Even after coming out, I didn't have a community. I didn't have any friends who were gay, and then I don't see any sort of possibility. I think that's what's really distressing at the time, was that I had no hope to be ever, be involved in a sort of happy sort of a relationship with another man at the time. Anyway, at the time, that's how I sort of saw it. Everything sort of just came crashing down because the professional life didn't work. And then my personal life was a disaster. So what the hell was I doing?
Yeah, it was like when I try so hard to do something, it should work out, even if it's something that I'm not really sure if it's the thing.
Yeah.
But when everything doesn't work, then you're really forced to re-examine what are the priorities.
Yeah. And then also I think, not that I think I'm in my fellowship years, I do have more free time. And then that actually allowed me to explore a little bit of my sexuality by going on dates. Now I was stressing about work and then just be finally able to put myself out there. It did take a long time for me to finally sort of be comfortable in my own skin, but also be comfortable in my skin at work. I do think that that's something that's really important, just because I do, I think we can sort of use the word I'm straight passing, which means that, I don't have a lot of sort of feminine behaviors. Not that it's, I don't want to put any sort of negative connotation on it. It's just that in sort of my working space, I don't come across as someone who is gay, which is something really stupid when you think about it. There's nothing wrong with feminine quality. There's nothing wrong with, being more empathetic. I think those are, in fact, the essential quality of being a doctor. But what I distinctly remember was that I was actually given a prize twice during my residency year for being the most empathetic resident towards patients, or the most sort of well-rounded. So they actually give it awards like that. And then I think...
Well, that's good to hear.
People thought that I deserved it, so I got it twice. And then I remember the first time when I got the award, one of my staff actually made a kind of a backsided comment being like, oh, well, you know what, and good for you, but those awards are usually given to girls. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that, I think, was damaging in a way. And then for sure there are, other circumstances that we can, if we have more time, I definitely had it. I can share, but that circumstances was the one that I was, maybe my sexual orientation will not be accepted in this community. As small as that sort of little sentence meant.
But these little things make a big difference. They stay with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's what for me was like, oh, okay. So maybe, things aren't that rosy, people are not as accepting. But maybe, but nowadays I don't really care, to be honest. I think at the time, I was also sort of searching. At the same time, I wasn't with any partner. So I think I was still searching, whereas now I do have a boyfriend or in a stable relationship. And then right now I don't hide it at the workplace when they said, "What did you do last weekend?" Well, I went to Toronto